You weren't born confident. No one is. It's not in your DNA. It's not something you either have or you don't. Confidence is built, and most people never build it because they're waiting to feel ready before they begin. That's the first mistake. Confidence doesn't come before the action. It comes after. You don't get confident by thinking about what you want to do. You get confident by doing it, scared, awkward, imperfect, and realizing you didn't die. You get confident by facing the discomfort and realizing you can survive it, that you're stronger than it, that the fear doesn't control you anymore. You want to feel unshakable. Start showing up when it's hard, when you're tired, when your mind says you can't, when people count you out. That's where confidence is born. Not in comfort, not in applause, not in approval. Confidence is built when no one's clapping. When you're alone, when you're doing the work quietly, consistently, with no guarantee of success. That's where belief in yourself is forged. Not in perfect moments, but in the messy, unglamorous ones where you kept going anyway. And the lie they sell you is that some people are just born with it. That confidence is a personality trait. It's not. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, you either train it or you let it atrophy. You either build it with reps or you stay weak in the moments that require strength. You think someone else has more confidence. Look closer. They just have more practice. They've failed more. They've risked more. They've been embarrassed more times than you have. They didn't avoid the hard moments. They went straight through them and came out different. Confidence is built when you keep your word to yourself. That's it. You want to stop doubting who you are. Then stop breaking promises to the person you see in the mirror. Stop saying you'll start tomorrow and then hitting snooze. Stop talking about discipline like it's a concept and start living it like it's non-negotiable. Confidence isn't about pretending to be fearless. It's about doing what you said you would do, even when you're terrified. Especially when you're terrified. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're stacking bricks under your self-belief. Every time you flake on yourself, you're chipping away at the foundation. And people don't realize how much damage they do to themselves just by not following through. It's not about the goal. It's about the identity. You said you'd go to the gym, but you didn't. You said you'd have that hard conversation, but you avoided it. You said you'd wake up early, write the thing, speak the truth, but you let it slide. And now, deep down, you don't trust yourself. You don't believe yourself. And it's not because you can't do hard things. It's because you keep showing yourself that you won't. That's where the insecurity lives. That's what keeps you playing small. Confidence isn't loud. It's not about walking into a room like you own it. It's walking into a room and not needing to perform, not needing to prove, not needing to defend or impress. Real confidence is quiet, grounded. It comes from knowing who you are and what you've survived. It comes from looking back at your own history and remembering that you've faced worse, that you've already done hard things, that you've already grown through what they thought would break you. That's confidence. And you build it one decision at a time. There will be days where doubt screams louder than discipline, where fear sits heavy in your chest, where everything in you wants to shrink, hide, delay. That's where the choice lives. Not in the days you feel strong, but in the days you don't. What you do in that moment is everything, because confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear be the decision maker. It's choosing to act anyway, to speak anyway, to move forward even when your knees are shaking and your stomach's in knots. And yes, it's slow. It's not instant. You won't feel it after one win. You won't wake up one day suddenly believing in yourself. It happens through repetition, through consistency, through failing, adjusting, and coming back smarter. You build it the way you build anything meaningful, with patience, with effort, with intention. Confidence isn't magic, it's manual. And the longer you wait to build it, the more you'll rely on other people to hand it to you. But no one can give you what you haven't first given yourself. So stop asking how to feel more confident and start doing the things that make you earn it. Start showing up for your own life like it actually matters. Start treating your commitments like they're sacred. Start living like the person you keep pretending to be on your best day. Confidence comes when your actions and your values match. When what you believe about yourself lines up with how you move in the world. That's not something you fake. That's something you build. You'll waste years of your life waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough. waiting for that signal, that nod, that moment where the world claps and says, now you can believe in yourself, and it never comes, not the way you want it to. Because when you build your identity on external validation, you hand over the keys to your confidence. And the second that validation disappears, so does your sense of self. You keep checking the mirror, not to see yourself, but to see if you measure up to what you think they want to see. You'll walk into rooms trying to earn space, instead of realizing you already belong. You'll play small, stay quiet, laugh when you don't mean it, agree when you know it's wrong. All because you're looking for approval. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit. If someone else has to approve your worth, then it was never yours to begin with. You gave it away before you even walked in. And once you make that a pattern, you'll feel confident only when someone else grants you permission, which means you're never actually free. Confidence that's built on outside validation is temporary. It's a drug. It spikes, then it crashes. One compliment makes your day. One criticism ruins your week. One rejection sends you spiraling. You become addicted to being liked. You shape-shift to avoid discomfort. You water yourself down to fit in, and then wonder why you feel so disconnected from your own life. You've spent so long becoming who they wanted you to be, you don't even know who you are anymore. That's what happens when your identity is rented. Not only you'll stop speaking your truth just to keep the peace. You'll hold back your ideas because you don't want to sound foolish. You'll dim your light so someone else doesn't feel insecure. And all the while, you'll tell yourself you're just being respectful, just being humble, just trying to keep things smooth. But deep down, you're betraying yourself. Not once, not twice, every day. And every time you do, a little piece of your confidence disappears. Not because someone took it, but because you gave it away for comfort. The irony is the more you try to be accepted by everyone, the more you lose the people who would have loved you for who you actually are. You think playing it safe will protect you, but it doesn't. It just buries your authenticity. And here's the hard truth. Real confidence will make some people uncomfortable. It will trigger their insecurities. It will cause friction. But your job is not to be digestible. Your job is to be honest, aligned, fully expressed. Confidence doesn't whisper, it doesn't apologize, and it sure as hell doesn't beg to be liked. People will try to mold you, fit you into their idea of who they think you should be. But the second you start letting those opinions shape your actions, you've already lost. Not because you're weak, but because you've put your power in the hands of people who aren't responsible for your life. You stop creating from your truth and start performing for applause. And the moment the applause fades, you're back to square one, wondering if you were ever enough without it. The truth is, not everyone will like you. Not everyone will support you. Not everyone will see you clearly. But your worth isn't on trial. You don't need to present evidence. You don't need to win them over. You need to remember who the hell you are. And you don't do that by waiting for a green light. You do that by stepping forward even when no one's cheering. Especially then. That's what separates the ones who lead from the ones who follow. Leaders don't wait for permission. They give it to themselves. That's where the shift happens. When you stop seeking validation and start giving yourself approval, you begin to speak with power, walk with clarity, show up with presence. You stop asking, am I enough? And start stating, this is who I am. And that shift changes how people treat you, because people respond to how you carry yourself. They can feel when you've anchored into your own worth, and they treat you accordingly. But that only happens when you decide you're done living off borrowed confidence. You don't need to be arrogant. You don't need to be aggressive. But you do need to stop shrinking. You do need to stop explaining your value to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You do need to stop trying to get applause from the wrong crowd, because when your confidence is rooted in truth, you don't chase validation. You attract respect. And that kind of confidence can't be shaken, because it's not built on sand. It's built on the decision that you are enough before anyone else says so. Confidence is not a feeling you wait for. It's a side effect, a result, a consequence of something else. And that something else is discipline. Not the kind you fake in public. The kind you enforce in private. The kind that holds the line when no one's watching. The kind that separates the person who talks about change from the person who lives it. If you want unshakable confidence, you need to earn your own respect first. And you earn that respect every time you follow through. Every time you choose what's right over what's easy. Every time you keep your word to yourself, even when no one would know if you didn't. People want confidence, but won't commit to consistency. They want the result but skip the reps. They talk about goals, but avoid discipline because discipline doesn't feel good. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's quiet. It's repetitive. It requires sacrifice. But this is where confidence is born. In the mundane. In the hard. In the moments you want to quit but don't. Confidence grows when you show yourself that your emotions don't get to vote on your commitments, that your excuses don't win anymore, that your future matters more than your feelings. You'll never feel proud of a shortcut. You'll never feel powerful if you know you bailed on yourself. That's why some people can be successful and still feel like frauds, because they cheated their own growth. Because deep down, they know they didn't earn it the hard way. Confidence doesn't come from what you achieve. It comes from what you overcome, what you build, what you withstand. And you only get there by choosing discipline when comfort would be easier. That's how you start to see yourself differently. That's how you build a core that can't be cracked. There's a reason you don't trust yourself. It's not because you're broken. It's not because you're weak. It's because you keep showing yourself that your words mean nothing. You say you'll start. You say you'll stop. You say this time will be different. But then life happens. Stress shows up. Fear kicks in. And you let the moment win. You abandon yourself in real time. And the more often you do that, the further away confidence gets. Because how can you believe in someone who keeps disappearing when it matters most? Confidence isn't about hype. It's about evidence. You don't get confident by journaling affirmations and hoping it sticks. You get confident when you have proof that you show up, that you do hard things, that you don't crumble under pressure. And that proof comes from discipline, from choices made in silence, from the 10-minute workout you didn't skip, from the difficult conversation you didn't avoid, from the daily actions that stack into momentum. The stronger your discipline, the louder your internal voice becomes. Not the voice that doubts you. The one that backs you. Discipline is the most underrated form of self-respect. Because it teaches you that you're worth the effort, that your future deserves protection, that your peace isn't negotiable. And when you live that way, you stop asking the world to reassure you. You don't need applause because your life becomes the evidence. Your energy changes. Your walk changes. People feel the difference when you've built something real from the ground up. You're not pretending to be confident, you are. And it's not loud. It's not aggressive. It's just steady, consistent. Unshakable. You will be tested. Not once, not twice, over and over. And each time you'll have a decision. Slip back into comfort or rise through discipline. One leads to temporary relief. The other leads to transformation. And you will not build the life you want through relief. You will not find confidence in comfort. You will not create power without pressure. Discipline is the fire that forges identity. And if you run from that fire, you'll stay small. You'll stay uncertain. You'll keep chasing outside validation because you never did the internal work that makes you unstoppable. You don't become confident by doing everything right. You become confident by staying committed when everything goes wrong. When the plan breaks, when the fear shows up, when nothing goes according to script. Discipline says, I keep going anyway. Discipline says, I adapt without excuses. Discipline says, I do what I said I would do, even when it's not convenient. And the more you live this way, the more you start to trust your own power. Because now, your belief isn't theoretical. It's built on behavior people will notice. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because confidence built through discipline radiates without effort. It's not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the most grounded, the most prepared, the most consistent. You become the person who doesn't just talk about what they want. They move like it's already theirs. That's the real flex. That's the real power. And it's not gifted. It's earned. Most people treat rejection like a stop sign. They take it personally. They treat it like a confirmation that they aren't good enough, smart enough, strong enough. They get told no once, and it becomes a narrative. It shapes how they see themselves. It controls how they move. They shrink. They hesitate. They don't try again. And what they don't realize is that rejection isn't evidence of unworthiness. It's part of the process of growth. It's information. It's feedback. It's a door that closes so you're forced to take a different path, a stronger path, a more aligned one. You're not supposed to be liked by everyone. You're not supposed to be chosen every time. And if you are, that means you're playing it too safe. That means you're staying in places that don't challenge you, that don't stretch you, that don't make you face yourself. Rejection is the price of courage, the cost of stepping into something greater. And you'll never be confident if your self-worth shatters every time someone else doesn't see your value. Because the truth is, not everyone will see it. Not everyone can. Some people are blind to your power. That doesn't mean it isn't there. You want confidence that lasts? Start detaching your worth from the outcome. Start realizing that rejection isn't the end. It's a redirection. It's an invitation to grow, to sharpen, to get better. And yes, it stings. It always will. You put your heart into something, and it doesn't land. You put yourself out there, and it gets ignored. You speak your truth, and someone rejects it. That hurts. But it's not lethal unless you let it be. The difference between confident people and everyone else is not that they never get rejected. It's that they don't build their identity around it. You're going to lose opportunities. You're going to face failure. You're going to get passed over. And every time that happens, you have two options: make it mean something about you, or use it to fortify you. One will keep you stuck. The other will evolve you. You don't need to pretend rejection doesn't hurt. You just need to stop treating it like proof. It's not proof that you're behind. It's not proof that you're a failure. It's proof that you're in motion, that you're trying, that you're in the arena when most people are still in the stands. You build confidence when you realize rejection isn't personal. It's directional. You didn't get that job. Maybe it wasn't the right environment. They walked away. Maybe they couldn't handle your level of truth. That door didn't open. Maybe it would have boxed you in. You can't always see the reason right away, but trust this: rejection is feedback from life itself. Sometimes it's a wake-up call. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's just the fire you needed to stop settling. But it's never final unless you decide it is. You will never feel confident if your goal is to avoid pain. Because growth is painful. Rejection is painful. Change is painful. But staying stuck, staying small, that's agony. You weren't built to avoid rejection. You were built to withstand it. And when you do, when you face it head on, something changes. You stop fearing it. You stop letting it control your choices. You realize that rejection didn't destroy you. It sharpened you. It humbled you. It pushed you into a version of yourself that's more resilient, more focused, more unstoppable than you were before. Confidence isn't built in a straight line. It's forged in those moments when you get knocked down and choose to rise differently. Not just stand back up, but stand back up clearer, wiser, and more convicted. Rejection can either be a wound or a weapon. You choose what it becomes. You choose whether it closes you down or opens you up, whether it keeps you from trying again or fuels the next level of execution. That's the decision you make every time life says no. You'll notice this pattern over time. Every rejection that felt like the end was actually the beginning of something better. But you don't see that until you've gone through it. Until you've learned to stop reacting and start reflecting. To stop begging for acceptance and start demanding alignment. You stop chasing places you don't belong and start creating spaces where you're not just tolerated, you're seen. Rejection taught you that. Not books, not theory. The lived experience of being denied something you thought you needed, only to realize you didn't. Let rejection strip away the parts of you that were built just to please. Let it remove the false layers. Let it show you who's not for you, what's not aligned, what you've outgrown. Let it grow your voice. Let it sharpen your edge. Let it force you to trust yourself more than you trust being chosen. Confidence doesn't come from always being accepted. It comes from surviving what you thought would break you and walking away more whole than before. The voice in your head will try to stop you before the world ever gets the chance. It will tell you you're not ready, not qualified, not enough. It will dig up every mistake you've made, every time you hesitated, every flaw you carry, and throw it in your face. That voice doesn't need evidence. It just needs repetition. And if you let it speak unchecked, it will run your entire life. You'll talk yourself out of ideas before they're born. You'll kill your momentum before you take the first step. Not because the world is in your way, but because you never learned how to silence the war inside. And here's the truth that most people avoid. You don't silence the inner critic with more thinking. You don't negotiate with it. You don't overanalyze it, argue with it, or try to convince it you're good enough. You take action. That's the only language it understands. You prove it wrong by doing the thing it says you can't. You crush it with evidence. The more you move, the less it speaks. But every time you hesitate, every time you delay, every time you wait for the perfect moment, that voice gets louder. You don't think your way into confidence. You act your way into it. Overthinking is just fear in disguise. It looks productive. It feels responsible. But it's a trap. It keeps you stuck in analysis, stuck in what-ifs, stuck in stories you keep replaying that never move you forward. You're not gaining clarity. You're building anxiety. You're not preparing. You're procrastinating. And you can dress it up however you want, but deep down, you know it's just avoidance. You don't need more time to think. You need to move. You need to interrupt the pattern. Because clarity doesn't come before action, it comes after. Confidence is built in the doing, not the doubting. That means you start small, even when it feels ridiculous. You send the message. You show up to the meeting. You record the video. You go to the gym. You speak up once, then again, then again. That's how it works. You build confidence like a staircase, one step at a time. Not with massive leaps, but with small, consistent proof that you are capable. That you are trustworthy, that you follow through. And with every rep, every action, every uncomfortable choice, the inner critic loses strength. Because now it has something to go up against: your actions, your evidence, your truth. The reason so many people stay stuck is because they keep waiting for the inner voice to get quiet before they begin. But the voice doesn't quiet down until you move. It's the movement that silences it. You're not supposed to feel confident before you act. You feel confident because you acted. That's the reframe most people never get. Confidence is not a starting point. It's a reward. It's what you earn when you push through the resistance instead of giving into it. And yes, it's going to be messy. Yes, you're going to fail. Yes, you're going to feel foolish. But you know what's worse? Letting that voice win. Letting it dictate your choices. Letting it run your day, your career, your relationships, your future. That voice isn't telling the truth. It's repeating what you've rehearsed. Maybe it sounds like a parent, a bully, a teacher, a memory, but it's not your identity. And the only way to kill that voice is to drown it in forward motion. That's the only thing that shuts it up. Action. Not talking about it, not journaling about it, not visualizing it, doing it. So take the step. Even if your voice shakes, even if your hands sweat, even if you don't have it all figured out, because the second you move, something shifts. You disrupt the fear. You flip the script. You tell your brain, we're doing this anyway. And the brain listens. It rewires itself around action, around courage, around evidence. That's how confidence becomes second nature. Not because the fear disappears, but because it stops winning. And when the voice comes back, and it will, you'll handle it differently. You won't panic. You won't retreat. You'll recognize it for what it is: old programming. And instead of arguing with it, you'll move through it. You'll act anyway. And every time you do, your confidence gets louder than your doubt. Your power becomes real. Not imagined. Not hoped for. Real. Because now you're not controlled by your thoughts. You're leading them. You stop being the person who waits, who watches, who hesitates. You become the person who moves, who trusts, who executes. And that's when the world starts to shift around you. Because confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from movement. It comes from showing yourself over and over again that you can do hard things, that you can feel afraid and act anyway, that you can be uncertain and still take the shot. And that's where power lies, not in the silence of fear, but in the sound of your own steps moving forward. Confidence doesn't survive in toxic environments. It doesn't thrive in places where you are constantly questioned, criticized, belittled, or drained. And most people don't realize this until they've wasted years trying to grow in rooms that were never designed to support their evolution. You can be doing everything right, reading the books, showing up early, working on your mindset, but if the energy around you is pulling you backward, eventually it wins. Not because you're weak, but because confidence isn't built in isolation. It's protected by the people and places you allow around you. There are people who don't want to see you change. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your growth threatens their comfort. You becoming confident forces them to face their own fear. You setting boundaries makes them uncomfortable with their own lack of control. And you becoming unavailable for drama, gossip, or chaos means they lose the version of you they could manipulate. And they'll push back, subtly, passively, or aggressively. But they'll do it. They'll say you've changed, that you think you're better, that you're selfish, that you've lost your way, and you'll be tempted to shrink just to keep the peace. That's when you need to make a decision, protect their comfort or protect your future. Because you can't do both. You can't build confidence while staying small to make other people feel okay. You can't walk in your truth while letting someone else's insecurities rewrite your story. You can't stay loyal to the version of you that never felt worthy and expect to become the version of you that commands respect. You're going to have to disappoint some people. You're going to have to say no without explaining yourself. You're going to have to walk away from relationships that drain your spirit. Even if you've known them for years, your environment isn't just where you live. It's what you listen to, what you watch, who you allow access to your energy. If your confidence is constantly being chipped away by comparison, criticism, or chaos, that's not accidental. That's exposure. And if you don't protect your energy, you'll start to internalize what's around you. You'll start to see yourself through the lens of people who never respected you. You'll start doubting your own path because they're too afraid to walk theirs. That's why boundaries are not optional. They're not rude. They're survival. You want to grow. Audit everything. Your friendships, your social feeds, your conversations, your routines. Ask yourself, does this expand me or deplete me? Does this help me rise or keep me stuck? Does this align with who I'm becoming or who I used to be? And if the answer is the latter, you already know what needs to be done. It's not easy, but it's necessary. You can't take everyone with you. You're not supposed to. Some people are chapters, not the whole story. The mistake we make is assuming confidence is only about what we do. It's also about what we allow, what we tolerate, what we make room for. And the more you tolerate low standards around you, the harder it is to hold high standards within you. Because energy is contagious. Mindsets are contagious. Fear, doubt, jealousy, entitlement. It all spreads. And if you're not careful, it infiltrates your thinking. You'll start second-guessing yourself, not because you're unsure, but because you're surrounded by people who have never trusted their own voice. That's why you need solitude, not isolation. Solitude. Time to think. Time to breathe. Time to reset without the noise of everyone else's opinions clouding your judgment. Confidence requires clarity, and clarity doesn't come from chaos. It comes from stillness, from honesty, from removing what's no longer aligned so what's meant for you can find space. You can't be available to everything and expect to be powerful. Power comes from focus, from being deliberate with your presence, from protecting your mind like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. You'll feel guilty at first for saying no, for setting limits, for choosing peace over people-pleasing. But that guilt is temporary. Regret lasts a lot longer. Regret for letting the wrong people stay too long. Regret for playing small in rooms you outgrew. Regret for dimming your light so someone else didn't have to stretch. Confidence is knowing that peace is worth the discomfort. That your boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. The right people won't be offended. The wrong ones were never invested in your growth to begin with. And once you start living like that, everything shifts. You move with more certainty. You speak with more clarity. You stop asking for permission and start giving yourself access. Because now your energy is clean. It's not leaking everywhere. It's not drained by emotional vampires. It's directed, controlled, protected. And that's when your confidence becomes unshakable. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you finally remembered who you are when you're no longer shrinking for anyone.